start your ready.
Open with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Carl.
We'll call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Minutes of 2/2/15. Any changes in the minutes?
Was it two? Maybe it got changed. There's two different meetings. One was for the work session afterwards, too?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I would move to approve. Okay.
Motion to approve the minutes by Morse, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Harley. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, any comments from the public that's not on the agenda? Anybody want to say anything? Okay, we'll move along real fast. Susan, go ahead, schedule will take you.
Perfect. Thank you all for letting me come in today. First of all, too, I want to say thank you for the service in the community. Working in a nonprofit for a long time, I understand how important it is, the job that you all do. So thank you for the job that you do. I am here today on behalf of the rec department and the Humboldt Family Aquatic Center. I want to first thank you for the support that you've given the pool in the past and ask for your continued support. Just a little bit about the pool. Just having a discussion with Aaron before I left, and I said, anything that you, in particular, you want me to talk about? And he said, well, what's the pool cost? And so I said, geez, Aaron, I don't like saying that out loud because it is something that is a huge burden on my budget in particular. So I guess I will say $104,000 to run the pool to operate, and that's just maintenance and operation. That's not the construction costs that we're still paying off some of those pledges that didn't get filled. So we are in our last year of that. So hopefully some of that expense will go away in the next year. But we do serve a number of people throughout the county. Working really hard towards collaborating with a lot of people, in particular Livermore, working together with Livermore, trying to keep their pool operational too. We're training their guards just the same way that we train ours. In the past, it would cost those kids $200 plus to get trained. We're doing all that in-house now, so everybody in Humboldt and Livermore get trained. The only thing that we're asking the Livermore kids to pay for is the cost of the Red Cross certification. So we are doing all that, working with them here. Also working throughout the Dallas Clark Foundation. He's given a donation for Humboldt County residents to get a full pass in either Humboldt or Livermore. So I'm overseeing that, making sure that we have people, again, in particular in Livermore and Boat area, so if they want to get the kids active and in that pool, that we're able to get them the pool pass there. So I believe 100% in that collaboration. I know that we can't serve everything in Humboldt. We have to work together throughout the county. So that's really important to me, that we get the county served, not just the people of Humboldt. Not only that, the rec department in general, that there seems to be a lot of people that come in and do the rec activities throughout the community too. So working well with the schools, sending all that information out to Bode, Livermore, Gilmore City, making sure that we're serving the people throughout the county and making sure that we're getting people active at a young age so we don't reach the 15th anniversary of our 40th birthday and decide that we don't know how to be active. So my goal is to teach people at a young age to be active and continue through a lifetime. So again, I thank you for the support that you've given in the past and hope that you'll value that the same way that I do and continue the support you've given, so.
Good presentation.
Sure.
How many of the, maybe you probably don't have the figures, but You know, we kind of represent the rural people with
Sure.
the swimming pool. Do you have any idea how many rural kids, get season passes or families?
We have about 320 family passes, this is just family passes, and I would say probably a quarter of those are throughout the county.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Plus, there's still swimming lessons
Yes,
offered for
yeah.
rural kids. That's the main goal we have,
Yeah.
we're concerned about.
and again, we're working together with some of the smaller communities. I know that Gilmore City brought a busload of kids, and, their concern was just dropping them off and no parents there. The parents don't need to be at swimming lessons anyway, so we do what we can to make sure that, one, people are safe, and two, we're working together that we all can get the kids the education that they need, in particular with swimming lessons, but, it seems like the rural kids are the ones that get the passes. They're the kids that mom and dad are working in town, they have baseball at 8 o'clock in the morning, and what am I gonna do the rest of the day, and so...
They bring them over, so they're there.
Yeah, and, that's been kind of a discussion in the past, and I guess the staff has the same belief that I do. If they're at the pool, they're safe, and so I guess we'd rather have them at the pool. Call it a babysitting service or whatever you want, but they're safe when they're there, and...
But it's
so
good
I'd rather
physical
do that.
activity for
It
kids
is.
too. I mean, there's nothing
It is.
wrong with the movement
Yeah.
part of things.
And we have a fantastic staff. That staff works really hard, making sure that people are safe. And, we had a couple of mandatory reports this past summer, and that's because of the staff that we have. And it wasn't because they were mad at the parents, it's because they were concerned for the kids. So,
Good.
we do, they're accepting, those kids in particular would show up at the pool at 10:30 in the morning and don't leave until 10 o'clock at night. So,
Mhm.
we do get that, but,
It's a long
they
day.
know the kids are safe there, and so we're accepting of that, and that's kind of what we're there for. So, kids are safe, very inactive, and they learn a lot of life lessons from some of those guards, so sometimes they're gaining their social skills there as well, so.
Probably.
Those amenities is something a community needs, is my understanding. There's not a pool in the state of Iowa that breaks even.
No,
Everybody, you have to subsidize it.
yeah, and I know that there's a pool in the area that the first year they were open, they said they broke even. They may have, just because they had been so far under when they were open for the first 2 or 3 months. But, we talk about economic development, and again, working closely with the Economic Development Office and doing some things, trying to make sure. We just worked on the home-based project and trying to offer to be a part of that home-based project too. And Alyssa does a fantastic job making sure that people coming into the area know what those amenities are. The swimming pool is a huge attraction for them. Actually, our rec department's a big attraction for people. We aren't that, I hate to say it like this, but we're not that hardcore competitive. If we're gonna build college athletes, it's probably not gonna happen in our rec department. But our kids are gonna gain confidence, they're gonna be knowledgeable about the skill, and they're gonna learn about lifelong activities. So, we have a lot of different goals coming in, not just that competitive, my kid versus your kid. And so, Alyssa and I have had a lot of conversations. She understands that. She understands my goals, and so she does a good job getting that out to the new companies that are coming in. And it's important to some of those people coming in. So, I know that she just worked really closely with a company that, in order for them to get their main guy to come into town, the swimming pool was a huge attraction for him, so.
Well, we thank you for the presentation. Any other questions you'd like to ask?
Well, you said this is your last year of paying off the bonds or whatever?
The pledges that didn't get paid on, yeah.
Yeah, you would've been done if the pledges would've came through, probably, yeah.
So, if you get that paid off, then what will drop off this $104,000, do you?
That, the 104 is just the operating and maintenance, so that pays for staff to be there.
So that doesn't pay for the...
That's
on
above
top
and
of
beyond.
Oh,
it.
I thought you said that included that.
Yeah, no, that's on top of the pledges, so. that. Like I said, I don't like saying those numbers out loud, so don't print them. You know, when people hear that, they kind of are in sticker shock a little bit, but again, it's such an important piece of the community, and honestly, having it on Main Street, I know there were some people upset when we first put that on there. I was involved with those community votes, and people just didn't know how it would work, and the parking, and there was a lot of people upset.
It's good parking.
It
Parking
is.
isn't that bad.
It's a fantastic location.
There's a lot of shade along the north, you know, it's good parking.
Yeah, and it does bring people to the downtown. I don't care what people say, it brings people to the downtown, and we're working on doing some more of that. We have the ice rink up at the gazebo park,
City Park,
yeah, the
downtown,
new park,
yeah.
and the buildings down, so, you know, we're working towards getting, we all have to work together to get people, back into the community, and I think that there's a lot of good things going on, to get us in that direction, so.
So you're asking for the same as last year,
She said whatever.
Yeah,
or whatever?
In fairness, since Carl wasn't here and he didn't present a number, we did appropriate, or we appointed, $12,000, same as last year's for, so I thought we could work that into our budget, unless Peggy tells us different today. And she might.
She might, after this fantastic presentation, she might go all out,
Double it.
Tony, right, yeah.
Yeah.
We thank you, and we'll see how it plugs in.
Very good, well,
It's
again,
good for us to hear from the rural side, I guess, is that there is good participation, you know, if you say there's 25%,
Yep.
that's important to us too, 'cause I
Yep.
mean, we feel the rural kids, there's no way they could afford this anymore. Goldfield used to have a pool, you know, at the golf course, and but unfortunately, there's no way they could run that any longer. And, you know, Wesley, I don't know if Wesley still is getting farther out of the way, but there's a lot of pools close at hand, so it kinda makes sense when you're talking about working class parents coming to town to work here, and then they needing a place for their kids, so.
The fee's the same whether you live in
Yeah,
town or out of town.
it is the same, yep.
And you treat us good that way too,
Yeah.
so there's a good, you know,
Yeah.
it's a return.
Gosh, that's so much policing, if you're gonna try and
Well, and like Livermore, they're trying their hardest to keep it open, and they realize too, when the next major expense comes, they might not be there, so.
well, and
There'll be more kids
again,
wanting to come this
collaborating
way.
with them, you know, trying to work together to reduce shipping costs, you know, they need new chairs and I need new chairs, so trying to.
Yeah, I'm glad
order
you're
those
working with
together,
them a little bit.
Yeah, so,
They're a good group of people to work with too,
Yeah.
so.
yeah,
All right,
very good, thank you
Thank you.
again for the
You too.
service in the community, I appreciate your time.
We'll see what turns up here.
Very good, thank you.
All right, it's not quite 9 o'clock, so we'll move on down here and see what else we can do. How about claims? We can do claims, can we not?
Yeah, I'm gonna approve the claims, $285,948 and 23 cents. Drainage, $209.
yeah.
$209, what we not do this month?
It was a slow month?
Winter, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Harlan, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mort to approve the claims as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next item, we have authorized the chairman to sign proposal on backup for disaster recovery statement of Datto computer backup system. What's this about, Peggy?
Okay, we talked about in our budget work session about needing a different, backup system because our Camden system has gone down. We're going to do this in July, but of course our system is down, so we're needing to do it like now. Solutions sent me a quote. There are two different forms that they need. They need the proposal signed, and it's at the price that was quoted, the $576.98 a month. And then there's also the backup and recovery, statement of work that needs to be signed, also by them. So there's two different things we need Carl to sign to get it going, so that we can keep the unit that well, the unit we have is actually too large, so we'll be bringing a different unit down and installing.
Okay.
But at least the one we have right now is backing up to the front.
That's when they gave us the cover till,
To
yeah,
cover it
they're
till,
working with us
yeah.
on that, so, all right.
That's a monthly charge thereafter.
Yes.
Yes.
And that'll be what we will have. I've got that built into the budget that I'll be showing you after the work session. So,
I'll make a motion to have the chairman sign a proposal for backup disaster recovery statement for Dale Computer's backup system.
Second.
Second by Al. All those in favor of signing the disaster recovery statement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next item, authorize the chairman to sign legal services agreement with Dorsey Whitney, law enforcement building acquisition.
Okay, received that in the email from Dorsey and Whitney, so that they can represent us as far as any legal work, going forward on the law enforcement center. Guess going through it, I didn't see anything that stood out as unusual. I don't know, I did not give it to the county attorney, I don't know if you want me to. I didn't look at it, but
Probably the same year before.
yeah, it's probably pretty standard.
Anybody want to approve the agreement with Dorsey and Whitney?
When were they coming down? I thought they were talking like they were gonna come down this week.
The gentleman with D.A. Davidson will be here today.
Oh, okay.
Dorsey and Whitney, I'm not sure.
We just did that by phone call.
Yeah, we did it by phone.
Do we need both then?
Yes.
We
You
do.
have to have a bonding attorney, and then he just does the paperwork for the bonding, and then the other gentleman does the financing part.
This is the part for the bonding?
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't do any of the financing part,
No,
they
they
just
don't.
get all the other
They
legal
just know
parts
each other
set up.
and-
Yeah,
Recommend different people.
I didn't realize that either, but I talked to other counties, here, said you have to have the two
Separate,
together.
yeah. Well, I think he was good to talk to on the phone, I think they're a good company, I think he had good points for us the other day. I'll make a motion to have the chairman sign the legal service agreement with Dorsey and Whitney.
They have done work for us in the past, it's just been a while.
Do I hear a second? Second by Harlan. Those in favor of signing the agreement with Whitney, Dorsey and Whitney, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. All right, we have a letter on file here to accept the resignation from Conservation Department, from Jeannie Bowles. And I lost my letter. It says effective today.
I have retired effective today, 02/6/15, Jeannie Bogmus.
Where she worked for the conservation.
What is she saying here about phone?
I'm not sure.
Oh, my keys, my phone, credit card, she's turning them in, is what she's saying, I guess. And that, so it's effective today, then, apparently.
We anticipate this coming.
Yep.
So it's done, you know.
How long was Jeannie with us? Anybody know?
Yeah.
I know she's got certificates before, but I don't remember. That not being known, I'll thank her for her years of service for the county and conservation department, and I think we've got a couple of young guys in there now that'll carry forward and do a good job for us.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept with regret, resignation of Jeannie. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Committee reports. What'd you do this week, Jerry?
I was doctoring all week, so somebody else can, that's all I had.
Let's see, Monday we had LEC, we just went through the budget, that's about all we did, so. And, what was it? Thursday, we had a conference call with, DCAT on, the girls' program. Something about the funding wasn't right, so we had to have a conference call on it, but, where the money was coming from, that didn't happen, I guess, so. But anyway, we come up with the right amount of money for it, so it went through. And that was all I had.
And what day again was your DCAT call?
I think it was Thursday. I can tell you here in just a second. If I wrote it in here. No, I don't have, didn't write it in here. It was Wednesday or Thursday, it was one of the 2 days.
Okay.
I
I didn't have anything.
I had nothing either. Moving on, agenda, Peggy, can we do approval of drainage transfer without being in drainage?
No, Trish has that.
Okay, we'll wait. I think we're done, except for going to drainage this morning.
You have any other business, Peggy?
No, I don't. Everything else has to do with budget.
Good.
A couple
Okay,
things.
so we come in at 9:30.
Yeah, so our first item's tonight, I guess we'd ask Peggy a little bit about, pictometry and, what was the other one?
Sidwell?
Sidwell. We had some questions on that. We talked to Linda a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
She was stating that some counties are just using, pictometry now.
Okay.
How would that affect your I mean, if we didn't have Sidwell, would pictometry be enough? Can we switch over to that? Or do you know enough about that? We were gonna ask
Yeah, I
Paul.
guess I don't know.
Because, it's costing about $25,000 a year for Sidwell, and, this pictometry's running about $30,000. Just thought maybe some of that's overlapping services. And Linda claims Sidwell, that their office is downsizing and maybe they're shrinking in people that are using it, so I guess we just want to run it by you before we make a rash decision, but
Okay.
that would make some difference in a budget, $75,000 between the three entities. Paul uses some of that too, but,
Right.
and we called Stan Watney from Wright County, and he said their engineer, they're using pictometry because they can put it up on the screen and do the things that Paul talks about doing, and so and then the individual app we can get for the supervisor if we want to flick something up on our own, so they're kind of using theirs. They seem to be happy with theirs. I just don't know what other counties are doing.
So we still maintain our paper books for people to come in and look at, and so that would do away with our paper books, then we would have to do everything online
Okay.
from then on.
That would be one change,
That
yeah.
would be a change for us, because we don't currently.
Could you maybe check with Wright County and see how that works for them? And, I'd rather have you get some information, see what they like or don't like.
Mhm.
We'll check with Paul and see how.
We'll ask Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Paul will be here today, but...
Yeah, Paul isn't on today, but...
Where that came forth, Peggy, we got to look into budget items for assessors,
Mhm.
and we got to thinking, well, maybe there's a better way of another mousetrap to look at it. One time we had Snyder here,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know what they do in addition to pictometry. Is that something that you would be, I don't understand what Snyder would do along with pictometry. Talk about overlays on top of the map.
The mapping overlays.
I think we need to do some research. maybe.
Linda was gonna call the assessor over there too and talk to her. And, see how they're liking it, what works and doesn't, so. We'll have to see what Paul thinks, but we can
Okay.
twist Paul a little bit. I don't know, it's just worth checking into, I think,
Yeah, tell her to check and see what it'll do for us.
because I think those fees keep going up, every year a little bit. They're getting better, but you pay for that. If we don't need to pay for both services, I think it makes sense, so.
Okay.
If we can save a few bucks, it'd be worth looking at. On pictometry, he was really happy with that the day they made the presentation. And I don't know, Linda's using it, I don't know if Paul uses it or not.
Mhm.
And the gentleman presented that day, he did a nice job, it made a lot of sense. And then, did you get clarification on the DX property as far as ownership? As far as, was it go Kevin or was it it was just Kevin himself then?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't realize there was a concern.
Well, I didn't know, 'cause he said, he wrote the bid came from Kevin, but he also had his business card in there.
Oh, yeah.
So I was
called him
clear.
and just told him to stop in. and
Okay.
I haven't
I
seen him yet to drop off the money.
texted him, he didn't text back. I just said, let Peggy know if it should be in your name or the company name, I wasn't sure.
I was waiting for him to stop in and drop
Yeah.
off his check and then... pick up our-
He's busy, I'm sure he will, but he's busy for him, so.
Yep.
All right.
Otherwise, I think everything else is in order on that part anyway.
Good. And then have you thought any more about service and repair, for the boiler, or if we had, with A&A being down, have we checked with anybody else?
No, I haven't.
I don't have any other good idea, there's not a lot of options, is there? We don't have a service contract with
Sands and Siler and...
Jeff Michelson did stop in and say, he...
Oh, he did?
I don't know if he does boiler, I guess I didn't ask him that.
I think the boiler would be the biggest,
But-
boiler work would be the biggest thing, I suppose, it
Right.
stands, or...
Sandra is pretty good. a lot of boiler work, at least in church, they take care of that one. And we used to.
Yeah, but we got 2 new boilers.
Yeah, we got 2
in the last
boilers.
2 years, so, I mean,
It's just a matter of checking them out.
But,
maybe.
well,
Yeah,
every
very close
fall,
to
you have
boilers,
to tear them down and then put them back together.
Is that what he does, they do,
Yeah,
How to boiler inspection, get your,
to get inside to see what the
yeah,
things look like?
that'd be coming up this fall too.
yep. Mhm.
What about the roof? We done any roof?
No, that's one thing we were putting in the budget to have, we'll have to
Yeah.
check. To take a look at it and see
Okay.
what shape we're in. Last time we had them checked, so probably 5, 6 years ago, and things were okay, but it's time to have them come back and look again.
We'll have to do some thinking about that boiler repair before fall, for boiler inspection.
Well, maybe we find out, so maybe they have a service agreement that's better deal, I mean, we just need to check with
Well,
them.
it used to be the custodian tore it apart and then put it back
Oh.
together, and I don't think Dave feels
Comfortable
comfortable
just
enough
doing
doing it, but maybe there's some way he can be shown how to do it. And then maybe
They
he
used
would be
to tear it
okay.
apart, then the inspector looks at it and put it back
Uh-huh.
together.
Oh, sure. Well, maybe we could
He's
talk
very
to,
capable of doing a lot of it.
maybe I'll talk to Dave and see, I'll talk to Dave sometime and just see what he thinks he'd be comfortable with, or...
yeah, if he's been working with him when he tears it apart, well, maybe he
Mhm.
feels more comfortable doing it.
Right, she's had a couple times to watch him do it,
Yeah,
so...
well, he amazes me sometimes with some of the things he can do.
He will do things if you
Yeah.
ask him, right, yeah,
He's
he's
very
very
skilled,
talented. And he's gonna take care of, I don't know, Carl, you were gone, he's gonna take care of several of those items with the courthouse as far as maintenance items. Well, you see, did you see that
From the
checklist?
grand jury report.
He's checked off several of those, so I thought we'd get those done first and then see where we're at, what else we need to address, so. Busy.
Yeah, it'd be nice if he'd let us know when he completes
Okay, why don't I get
which
with him
ones
and
he's
have it?
working on, and
Yeah.
If there's any that he has trouble with, or he thinks it needs additional work.
Yeah.
The list was big, but it wasn't, a lot of those weren't major things, it's a lot of things Dave, I'm sure, will be able to handle.
And some things were things that we talked about.
Just clean up
before,
items and safe hazard items, and
Yeah.
cords and outlets and stuff, so.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay, I've run out of things to bring up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
where do we stand right now? Is this guy gonna come back with these cameras we were gonna put in the hallway?
He did, he came back and dropped off a quote last week. I showed
Oh,
him,
okay.
but he might not have gotten down
I
to
think,
you.
did we all get a copy?
No,
Oh, it was
the
just,
one, I've got it in my office, I'll show it to you.
yeah, that's right. We can talk about that at budget.
Yeah.
With the hallway and...
That's
He
right.
had two separate quotes, he had one quote for 3 cameras for the hallway, and then another quote for key fobs for outside doors.
That was really expensive.
How about the doors?
Yeah, he
That's,
gave a
he
quote
gave
for
it,
that.
we've got quotes on that, but that's really expensive.
And we knew that one would
Really
be.
expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive?
Yes,
They
very.
won't be just a remote.
Not for the, well, the camera thing wasn't so much, we were, our
Yeah, no.
thoughts were, when we feed that live to the, how do we get it down to the law enforcement center? What, is that include that, or is there another
He
cost?
said it could be done, but I guess we didn't know if it
What
was, if it was including that or not.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, we need, I think we need to have them fed down there.
Yeah,
well, that's what did the most good in the courtroom.
Well, yeah. Having a camera recording anything isn't really help unless they can
Somebody can
monitor it a little bit. Because they monitor the school and,
So there must be a way to do it if the school's getting monitored.
Yeah,
It can't be
yeah.
that hard to do.
mhm.
But that wasn't discussed in the court.
Well, we're not sure if that,
Well, I know when he was here, I told him to talk to the circuit court's office, because he said, where do you want the camera on the second floor? And I said, talk to the clerk's office, because I don't know if they want it more towards their door, or if they want it in the actual courtroom,
Mhm.
or, you know,
Yeah,
where is the
that's a
best
good point.
part? Because court, in all actuality, is only, you know, so many days out of a week, or so many days out of the month, whereas there are people up to their office every day, so maybe they would rather have it on their office rather than in the courtroom.
Was that system you have capability of adding up to 8 cameras?
we can add 3 more right now.
3 more now.
Then we'd have to get another unit of 4, a block of 4, and then we could go to 8. But the thing we have here for the court, right here for our office, can expand 3 more.
Okay. You know, one time we talked about maybe the parking lot, but maybe that's not in the ballpark.
Well, I think we get the main entrance, and then this hallway. And I think we should ask the clerk of court too, maybe it's better in the courtroom, maybe it's better in their office. I can see some advantage in the courtroom, because that's where we've had, little scuffles once in a while.
Supposed to be an officer there all the time, the court's in session too.
True. maybe we're duplicating that, maybe we just put it in the hallway, so.
We'll do a little research before we,
Yeah.
order that, find out.
You're okay.
9 o'clock, time to go to drainage.
So moved.
Motion by Harlan, go to drainage. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mort. Okay, we are in drainage. We'll change horses here.
Okey-dokey.
Rick's here today too, isn't he?
And there's a bunch of guys in the hall, I don't know whether they want...
Mike moved up from Des Moines.
Did he? If any of them are for drainage.
Any more chairs? Yeah?
He's coming in, yeah.
Just go sit in the soft chair, Janet.
Me that many people, okay.
Sure.
Good morning, gentlemen. You got enough chairs? Let's get some more here.
Bring a couple chairs out from the hallway.
Yeah, just bring them chairs from the hallway.
Chairs in the hallway, you wanna drag them in? Just wanna be comfortable. Hey, Rick.
Yeah, Rick, we got an empty spot right there.
Okay, Rick.
Jerry? No.
Rick is on today.
Oh, okay. Rick will be Rick today.
Getting in there, Mike? You could be the first one to sign you off for that. That's great. Funny seeing you on the other side of the table, Rick.
Yeah, I know. It feels very different.
We'll pass around those clipboards you signed, so we have an idea of who's present. If you would do that, please.
Got new ones?
Got new bid tabs for you. Give you one of these there? Okay.
Chairs in the back, too. Get in the door.
Can you throw those up north, please?
Yeah.
Gently.
There's the installation part of it.
What's all this? Oh. Get one piece.
We've got enough trees now, Rick.
Yeah, some days, yeah.
Okay. Guys,
This is my copy.
don't greet you.
I think our first item here to discuss is consider awarding a contract. So we can turn over to you, Rick.
Okay,
Please do this.
I just gave you bid tabs, summarizing, a lot of you had it written down already. And what we're dealing with is deciding between the half-inch and the 1-inch drainage coefficient. You're all aware, Trish sent out a letter to all the landowners asking for input on what their preferences would be. And I think she handed out the summary sheet, from that. Is that another one? Okay.
One to add to the half.
Okay. And part of the issue is here, you need to decide on this because the different contractor has the installation for the half-inch compared to the 1-inch. So, to be fair to the contractors, you really need to decide, because there's other bids coming up. They're telling me it's a fairly busy winter for bids. So the unsuccessful contractor really needs a chance to bid some other work. So that's why we're strongly encouraging to make the decision today. I brought forms with me for notice of award to the contractors for both options. So once the decision is made, we'd ask for a signature there to get this out, to make it official with the contractor. We have someone here today from Denver. I don't know if there's anybody from H&W or not, I don't think so. But anyway, several landowners. have all the landowners that are here put in something now already for their preference? Or some of you just planning to make the statement today? Everybody's put in, have they? Oh, okay.
The tab we have is already, the ones that come.
He's one so far.
Be 8 for a half inch and 12 for 1 inch and 1 for
No preference?
preference.
Okay.
We have not said anything yet, I thought it was Jeremy this morning.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Gary?
There's one landowner that doesn't know anything about this, that hasn't even been contacted.
Where are they along the
They're
project?
on the very south end, the new area that you added on, in section 32.
Land,
Not been contacted.
really?
And who's that?
Do you know,
Who?
Granted,
They've been contacted.
who's been contacted?
Oh, Gary?
I just
Grandson?
talked to him Thursday, and he has not had one bit of information.
I've had no mailings come back.
No, he hasn't gotten anything.
But you sent a letter out?
Mhm.
Or-
True, because they would have had the mailing from the, annexation,
Mm-hmm.
plus this mailing, so,
So it's going somewhere, because it's not coming back.
He hasn't got anything. We got a Minneapolis address there, what do you got?
I don't have my addresses with me. He's in Minneapolis, though?
Yeah, there it is.
Well, we'll have to check on what's going on there, because it,
Yeah, he knows nothing about it.
hmm.
He wouldn't have been in the first mailing, because this was added later.
Right, but that's where there should have been a mailing for the annexation hearing, and then for this preference. So there should have been two at least.
Oh, we could get him in.
We'll just have to look, maybe it got
Yeah.
lost in the mail.
Okay.
So I can proceed with those we have notified, I assume. And we made a tip to notify everybody.
Yeah, at least twice on that one, so.
Yeah.
All of you should have gotten a letter. The summary basically was that, for the half-inch coefficient, by the time you add everything up, construction, contingencies, engineering, right-of-way, interest, comes out to about $297 an acre average. The 1-inch coefficient, adding all the same things together, came out $590-some, and I believe that was summarized in the letters to you. Something else the board will be deciding on is how long to give to pay that back, and they can by law go up to 20 years. And you can pay off at any time, on a parcel. Some people pay as cash flow allows to take care of certain parcels. That's your option.
They can get cheap money too, because we're closing the wells, right?
Last I knew, there was still some
Still
available.
available?
Last I knew,
You know, Mike?
no, I don't know. Mike would be the best.
The way the DNR looks at things now is, there has to be a secondary treatment, like a wetland at the outlet of the tile, before that 1% interest is available. And this project, we looked at that,
Mhm.
but the topography just did not lend itself to allowing that to happen, to allow a crepe wetland to be
Yeah.
at the end. So this project is not eligible for the low interest loan.
Oh.
So we go with deferred payment 6%, is that correct?
I think that's what you have it set at currently.
Up to 20 years.
Right. So I guess to summarize the list completely, if there people have some preference and have not expressed it, the board needs the input now, so they can work with that decision this morning, if there's any way possible.
The count stand that we noted here a while ago is, 8 for half inch, 12 for 1 inch, and 1 with no preference unless there's additions this morning. 12-1.
I'll say half inch too, they haven't pushed mine.
All right.
I'd like to have to.
12-12.
Give your names too, if you
Gary
don't.
Marching.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, just so people know.
12-12 with no preference.
That's why I was afraid it would come out almost exactly.
Yeah. But that,
Somebody want to vote twice?
Yeah.
It's Byron and Mitch, name would be half inch.
Mitch, thanks, Mitch.
Okay.
Nays, where are the nays down here?
They can't fix the tie and keep it tighter to the half.
And you know, in all fairness, that's what,
Separate land or joint?
you know, in all fairness, Carl, ones that have been involved all along, we knew they'd show up today, so there's
Well, Tom
no...
Marching, she voted for
Yeah.
half.
Yeah, I gave it to her.
Yeah, March, which one was this one that was in there?
Go by acres, they go by votes.
I think
Oh,
right
that's
now,
the Nielsen one.
Which is,
by landowners.
That's what I was...
Yeah, and it's just to get a best feel they can for
Liability
it.
one?
Yeah, it's a tough call.
Looks like we're leaning towards a half inch.
Paul, is yours representing, the Nielsen, or the family farm one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right.
And a little bit then would be Denver Underground, is that correct?
Correct, that's the low and a half inch.
$907,090. What's the desires of the group? A low bid for half inch from Denver Underground at $970,090.
I'm gonna just give a 2-minute summary on the engineering design for this. I don't know that it'll make any difference, but when we do a half-inch coefficient, that is with the pipe just flowing full. Anytime you have real wet conditions, any type of ponding going on, the coefficient's actually a little higher than that. Approaches 3/4 on one I went through a couple years ago. The 1 inch, same thing. It's the pipe, you're just getting the pipe full, you're not putting any pressure on it. So the inch probably gets you closer to 1.5 inches when you need it the worst. But just how the design works out.
Now, can I elect not to have any tile hooked up to that going through my farm where you're going to find an outlet?
You can, here's what 2 drainage attorneys have told me in the last few years. Landowners are paying for the availability of the pipe, of it being there, so whether you're hooked up or not, there'd be some assessment. And that, like I say...
I don't wanna hook up, I don't ever wanna hook up, I got
Okay.
a tile system.
Okay. Well, yeah, we don't...
You're going through my ground just to get to an outlet. I
Yes.
don't want anything to do with it. I don't feel I need to be billed for that portion of it. I'll pay for my 60 acres where the sink well is. And I'll pay like the rest of them for the tile going through there. But I don't feel I should have to pay.
I think maybe the law, Gary, might include, you may not own that land forever, the next guy may want to hook up, so I think that's the law.
I believe that's part of the reasoning why
Tile's
the...
all in there. And if they hook up my tile that's in there now, I'm gonna be dealing with tile that's 20 feet in the ground if I ever have a problem. I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, we don't have to hook them up. I mean, no, we're not gonna force that issue.
Well, that's up to the Benefits Commission.
Right.
If they know that, they can take that into consideration.
Yeah. And like I say, we'll rely on drainage attorneys' input there too, where there'll be something for benefit just because of the availability, but
It'll be less.
it should be less. Yeah, should be limited.
Will this be put in lower than what is ours, so?
Yes, we had to get
Won't bother
real
you?
deep to get everything picked up we wanted to pick up. Yep. Yeah, we'll be below it, so.
Well, I'll see what happens, I'll make a motion to go with a half-inch coefficient.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Harlan, second by Jerry, to go with a half inch with Denver Underground. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We'll go with Denver Underground, $907,090. Okay.
So you wanna talk about the, payback on the borrowed money? Do you wanna do that now?
Are you with Denver?
I mean,
Yes,
that's
he is.
out years.
Do they,
Oh, we'll have to do that
have
at the
any
levy.
study behind it or anything?
Haven't asked him.
But, yeah, I mean.
You ever need, we need to be able to start on this,
Last trip.
Once we're awarded, have contracts signed, I assume, weather permitting, we would start as soon as possible.
so this would be one of your first projects this spring?
Well,
Be their major project for the
due to
year.
the scale of the project, it's gonna take a lot of attention. It's gonna be, I think I had 145 days to...
So it's most of the construction season.
That's almost a year.
Yep.
Is there any comment as far as payback on the loan, if you wanna borrow it through the county, you know, the 6%? If you want it for 10 years or 20 years, any preference there? We won't decide today on that, but if there's any, I guess it doesn't make a lot of difference. If we go to 20, it just gives them more time if somebody wants to utilize it, right? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And that's where I was saying they could, if they have some income and wanna put it towards, you can't make extra payments on parcels, but you can pay a parcel off at any time. So if you end up with some
You wanna
cash flow.
balance it.
Yeah, if you have multiple parcels, pick out what you wanna pay off
Right.
to spend that.
That's a big project, it's gonna be
Yeah,
one of the bigger ones we've had.
yep.
Any other discussion on 125?
Did you ever come up with that basin down there, J.E.?
Well, we're looking at that yet. I wasn't in the office Friday and they sent me a bunch of calculations. And I wanna talk to Mike about this. There's a chance we'll look at making that basin bigger, but it shouldn't have much effect on the price because we're wasting a lot of dirt now in getting that basin built, whereas we just keep that dirt on site. There's some concern from Mark Dickey on erosion north of that pond. Now, we're slowing the water down, but from past history, there's significant erosion there. So, Friday, they emailed me some information on a pond that NRCS looked at in the same location, but it was bigger. So, and I wasn't in the office Friday, so I just got it early this morning, I haven't had a chance to look through it. I'm gonna talk to Mike about that possibility. That'll all hinge on not much increase in cost to be able to do something different there. Otherwise, we can't justify it, so, we're looking at it. We've got an emergency spillway plan for that, structure. We're planning, some rock checks in the road ditch, some other things to slow down debris and silt. It's an ongoing conversation on that pond.
Do we have any other questions, any discussion on 125 before we move to the next district?
At what time will we know the individual costs, please?
Good question.
Well,
I can address it, if you don't mind.
sure, yeah.
I worked with Humboldt County on a number of drainage hole projects, and you really won't know your final assessment until down the line. They can give you some idea once the benefit analysis is completed. But there's a number of costs that go into this project, including construction, including interest on unpaid warrants, including wetland mitigation, including legal fees, mailings, engineering costs. And all of that is cost shareable. The state will provide up to 75% cost share. And so during the course of the project, Trish will be sending us interim billings, and we'll pay 75% of eligible costs for that. Then when everything's said and done, the project's closed out, and the engineer signs off, and you have the hearing where all the damages and everything's done, then there'll be a final assessment, and I'll work with Trish to know what that date is. And we'll calculate what the interest of unpaid warrants are to that date. And then she'll send a letter to you guys saying what your assessment is, and then the state no longer takes any responsibility for interest on unpaid warrants, and that's where they're saying you have 20 years, you know, to, if that's what the number becomes, you can pay it off right away and not have any interest, or you can take up to 20 years to pay that off. And you can, you know, that'll be at 6% interest against the county. If you can get money borrowed at a cheaper rate, you can do that and pay it off, you know. So there's things that you can do, but the final number won't, you know, to the penny won't be done until, I don't know, if it takes them a year to build it, it can sometimes take 6 months for all the closeout proceedings.
I figure 18 months.
So,
Rick, that number
Minimum.
you quoted is approximately $300, that's before the 75% off, or is that after?
That's after.
That's
the
after.
75%?
That's after, yep.
that's an average.
Right, that's an average, and we,
And really, somebody can be half that, somebody can be twice that, really.
yes, and that's why we had that color sheet that, with reds and yellows and greens on it to give you an idea whether you'd be above or below that average.
But I think a minimum would be 18 months, you know,
Yeah.
and that would be if everything goes well,
Yeah.
before you'd know.
It's just, you know, we don't know the exact cost either. I mean, Rick has an estimate of what interest and what his engineering, and we know what the construction bids are, but sometimes things happen. Based upon that, all that available, the state has developed an agreement with the county that will cost share up to $2 million. So there's $2 million of state money that's available to go towards this project. Now, if the costs come in less, you know, we won't pay the full $2 million, or it can only cost share up to 75% of the budget. But, so you guys know, there's up to $2 million that the state is putting towards this project, and it's because of the ag drainage wells, and it's the state's goal is to get all the ag drainage wells closed in the state. After these 12 are closed, 13, if the one that's non-functioning, that's included in this. So there remains 36 wells in the state to be closed. A number of years ago, we knew of 300, so we're 300 down to, after this project, 36.
Those funds may dry up at that point, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. Right.
The wetland mitigation can vary quite a bit, you know, he's got 28 acres down here at 15,000. Wasn't long ago, we were doing that for 7, 8, 10,000, so. And maybe we won't have 28 acres, but there's probably gonna be quite a bit of that if we use stuff.
Right, and all those farmed wetlands are mitigated, so the
That's a good deal.
landowners who own those are out, you know, once the project's completed and they're mitigated, they're eligible to be farmed.
Then you can drain those.
Yeah.
So if they choose to, they don't have to.
Right.
It allows them to be farmed without being...
And that's cost shared at 75% too, right, Mike?
The mitigation.
Yeah, it is. I think the people who own the wetlands might pay a little bit more assessment,
Right.
Yes.
but the state does cost share 75% of the cost to mitigate the wetlands.
Other comments, other questions, Gary?
Just for the record, I personally think a half-inch coefficient is not even gonna come close to taking care of all those sinkholes we're taking out. Are you guaranteeing us that this tile is gonna do what the sinkholes are doing now? I don't think you realize what those sinkholes take on some of these farms. Now, some of the farms are not working, but I really think we're gonna have a issue with not taking water fast enough. Okay.
There's no way to know the capacity of those sink walls without a lot of testing. I will just tell you, historically, people have been surprised how much water the half-inch coefficient systems take. Now, in this case, can't tell you.
But, you're thinking about even putting in some sink wa, or some intakes in this system along the way?
Yes,
When that water all goes to the south now, and you're gonna make it go to the north, I don't know, it's gonna be interesting, but
Yeah,
I
it's-
personally don't think it's gonna work that much.
yeah, that's,
Might not even work an inch.
Well, the watershed, you know, if you get an inch rain, how many gallons are in the watershed?
oh yeah, it's all part of the calculation.
All part of the
It all
engineering.
goes south now, what I'm getting at.
A lot finds its way south.
North,
But
it all goes south.
we had to find an outlet that would work. and this is it, so.
Well,
Okay.
I think we better move along, we got another item here on DD 114, accept reclassification.
Now, has Brent been in to sign it? Maybe we can get him in here today.
No, yes.
Yeah,
Pat.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
thank you, yeah.
Did you get your call number? We, definite need to check out the joints and then put this one in.
Subject to Brent's signature, I guess maybe they can pass it. We've submitted it, but we haven't got Brent Keenest in here yet to sign it. My thought is the possibility of approving it, subject to his signature. And then you could schedule a hearing if you want. Trish is still working on the details on how to handle it as far as possible refunds, 'cause, can you say nearly everybody but the railroad paid?
Everybody, yeah.
Okay.
Waiting on that, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's only 3 landowners that actually will receive a credit.
Oh.
And they're pretty insignificant, I mean, $100.
Oh, so then you would really have to,
But it's trying to find a way to run it through the accounting.
How do you
system.
properly run it through the books? So it's...
well, is there any way to hold a credit above what, your assessment is for those? I mean, when you send out another assessment, like if you send out 5,000 for repairs, couldn't you have that credit on hand for them? Or is that a problem?
It's all manual,
What's manual, Jan?
keeping track of where the
It would all be
credits are.
manual, oh, that'd be a little bit of a problem.
Solutions hasn't ever really had this problem. She says, oh.
They never,
Kind of like-
Humboldt County comes up with a new problem.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever you guys can work out, do it.
Yeah.
So how should we state this wording then on this?
Approved, subject to Brent Keenest's signature.
Yeah, of the reclassification, then if you wanna set the hearing now, you can, but you could do that later too if you want.
Set the hearing.
I'm all for it.
yeah, we need
Let me
to
grab
set
my
it.
agenda though.
So this is well set up.
Yeah, that's,
Get it over. Here's this back with the book. We do that in one motion, can we not, accept and set the hearing?
yes, yes,
It's gonna be, 40 days?
yeah.
Well...
So the state is paying 3/4 of the interest until everything, that
Till
final date.
it's final completion of the project and acceptance, which is sometime, probably a few months after the completion.
Yeah.
Yep.
For April, aren't we?
March 23rd or later, probably.
Yeah.
23rd would be the soonest. Yep.
Wanna do that?
Sure,
9 o'clock?
sure.
What date? 23rd?
March 23rd.
Oh, March, you were talking
Oh, no,
April.
oh, no.
Okay, March 23rd, 9 o'clock. I'll move. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the reclassification report subject to signature by the benefit by Brent Keenest, and we'll set the hearing date for March 23rd at 9 o'clock. We have a motion and a second. Other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Excuse the frog. We have one other item in drainage here, and that we need to transfer some funds.
What are we transferring?
Drainage transfer.
I think, let me grab that, that was...
Transfer.
It's kinda interesting. 2 years ago, they'd have taken the 1 inch,
Yes,
$7 corn and $3.50 corn makes a big difference.
huge difference, absolutely. Oh, yeah,
$200 an acre.
yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Nobody knows how long this is gonna hang on.
That's right, that's the thing. Mhm. Oh, yeah, I believe you're absolutely right, Harlan.
Let's find out.
It's a corrective billing, from Drainage District 9-192 Humboldt Webster, and billing 8-184, it was billed incorrectly. The fund number and the amount is $11,580.
Repair work done with some question on where the location was, and it ended up getting billed to the wrong district to start with.
So then we're just correcting it and doing a transfer versus...
Transferring from one
We
district to
weren't
the other.
involved, we weren't involved, so, what?
8-184.
Nine
I think that was another one, different deal.
9-192 Humboldt Webster to 8-184 Humboldt Webster.
What district that we're in, huh?
Anybody want to approve the transfer of this to correct the incorrect billing? Want to state those districts again for us so we have it on record?
From 9-192 Humboldt Webster to 8-184 Humboldt Webster. And the amount's $11,580.
Well, we gotta correct it, I'll move.
Thank you.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
Second by Moore.
Working for him today, aren't you?
Favor of the motion to transfer to correct the incorrect billing as stated by Trish, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Anything else for drainage this morning, Rick?
Not that I know of, I guess.
All right.
Move to go out of drainage.
Second.
Those in favor of going on drainage, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We'll go back to the regular session.
I'll be back with the notice of award, we'll date it, have it ready, and catch Carl for signature here before I leave town.
Oh. Sure. Sign that, will you? Maybe, please.
Yeah, you better.
Both pages in front
Just
of
the
you.
top one. That's fine.
Thanks for doing this, Trish. That's helpful.
I guess I could just have him sign the top two of those too, that's that notice of award, Carl. Just the top one of each. Aren't, yeah, they're both half inch.
Materials,
We can fill in the date.
stand by.
Is the contractor from Ridge here today?
I don't think so.
I didn't think
That's why I
I
kinda
seen-
mentioned it and nobody
Yeah, I didn't
spoke up.
see anybody.
Yeah,
Another one? Just a half inch.
yeah, just the half, just the front
Okay,
sheet.
That one.
One's for materials and one's the installation. Thank you. Oops, unless you're back there.
Actually, I need Jana.
Oh, do you need a number?
I've got numbers.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Rick.
Hey,
Thanks, Rick.
Yep, thanks, Rick.
I'm too glad you came to these meetings and get to hear about drainage. They don't have that in Minnesota, you're just swamped, right?
Right, I have no idea, this is the first I've been to these meetings, so
Yeah.
I'm just getting into the groove of having to figure out when and what all my meetings are that I have to go to to try and collect news for you guys to listen to.
What do you, want to hear some good creative stuff?
Yeah, right. It's hard to come by some news that you guys haven't already heard or read somewhere else.
Sure. Gotta be creative.
Makes it a challenge to make my brain work now.
You can do that when you drive back from here in Fort Dodge.
Oh, shoot.
No,
Well,
I'm
glad we're to this point with one.
I think that's what I went through all day.
We've been getting on this one.
I get to
Gary made the point,
Yeah.
you put so much water in a bucket, and you got a hole in it, it's gonna drain it. I don't care if it did go out of the bucket earlier, it's all a calculation,
Right.
Had I gone and done...
Sure, if you get a 5-inch rain or something,
Nothing would handle it.
Nothing will handle it.
If it's 1 inch, it wouldn't handle it.
Sleep at the station.
The key here is, I think that really makes it work better than you think, is with a good drainage system, it's draining ahead of time, before the big rain comes. And a lot of it depends how much, pre-draining was done. If it's dried out, it'll hold a lot more.
You'll have to dried out more because of it.
But if you have no tile system,
Yeah,
it's never drained that, it's always saturated.
It's like the little living room they have upstairs.
It's just like that new tile, it won't work as well the first year as it will the second year, once it gets to...
Water runs off the right, doesn't better, says.
And this is a tough one, because the outlet is a tough situation. I mean, it's the best way we had to go with it, you couldn't go anywhere else.
There was a big difference between the one and the half this time.
Yeah, there typically is, it's about, you know, in all fairness, you know, the other thing.
It's always been high, but...
Your half-inch coefficient, that's gonna be your life, that's gonna add a lot of value to that land that people
Well,
forget
that's
about.
it, that's zero.
I mean, it adds $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah.
Sure. You look at the...
Is that outletting to the north?
Yep, yeah.
Walked in.
They told me to come up, that's
Yeah.
One was run down.
full-time and then part-time with the...
One still people living in it, they said they could be out.
And we gotta work on that too, with bagging on that, or digging
I don't know, Dad, to go.
on that,
Well, I have land on that one on the Pocahontas County side that out west of north, and they had to put a settling basin in along a creek there.
That's kind of
And that settling pond halfway down the hill, and the Bell Place is far below.
because there's so much water coming.
DNR calling them about that. That got really
We
close.
wouldn't have gotten any.
Yeah, it adds up big time, when you do those kind of changes.
Who was the engineer on that, Greg?
Craig, yeah, who was the engineer?
Get up to state this weekend.
You know, they...
And then we were trying to put the mattress.
It was, started out as Edwards.
Yeah, there's that.
What explains part of that?
Huh?
What is it?
Yeah. Oh, who was the engineer?
That's right.
Down
So, yeah, it was kind of, the boys' TV broke on the way down.
It's gonna be funded with that state pool.
And so, everything that kind of could go wrong, did go wrong.
So we were robbing that for Pocahontas County, and they couldn't get 75% because it's such a huge project.
They could-
Our final assessment's $400 an acre for us,
Turned out that it was,
1 inch. They did
They
it.
did do it one inch.
one of my,
That's less than the 6 1 inch was.
Yeah, it would've been about 200 otherwise. We never even considered it.
broken.
They just didn't figure it's full of water.
Tears goes into the...
I agree, I think 2 years ago, the inch would have been a little more popular.
Gary, Dave said it wouldn't have...
But from the sugar sheet at 500.
Yeah.
Which doesn't surprise you, really, does it?
3 hours.
Well, he says he doesn't need it for 60 acres, so.
You
You
still...
know, I think you're right, you get that right out a little bit, a heavy rain's gonna soak in, it's gonna be hot.
You know, that was rough for it.
I'll have to handle it.
Didn't go well, you know, we were supposed to be down here, so we could unload the U-Haul during the day.
Heavy rain, you get a lot
We
of...
didn't get here.
Well, and probably you consider a lot of the half-inch coefficient ones, today they're 100 years old, they're probably only at a quarter.
That's right.
I mean, this is a brand new system. Starting out, it'll be good.
No, we turned it
Your
in.
contour line,
And then we had to run back up.
And you destroyed...
They're all gone.
Real fast.
Plus, they didn't
Pick
get
up a couple of last things we were putting up there.
It is what it is.
Come back down here.
I haven't.
Is that green light on?
Now.
Right.
Well, nice for our weekend.
It's down, is it down?
They just down and passed around.
Yeah, it was.
Drove back and forth.
Didn't show.
It's a lot chatter. All right, thank you. Same place?
Yep, same place.
All right, Jana, we have a, Greg, Jana, somebody, we have
Great
a,
stuff.
Mike and Tripp, want to, accept Kevin and Greg to talk about tax assignment for Pioneer.
We are requesting the assignment of authorization for assignment, I believe, on 4 certificates. One
120, 121, 122, and 123-14. These are on some town lots in Pioneer, City of Pioneer, that Kevin is going to try and take ownership of one way or another. We may try a different tack here that may not involve completion of the full tax sale redemption on the certificates, but we need to make some contacts and do some additional work in that. But failing that, we need this as a backup plan to authorize Janet to go ahead and assign those certificates. We cannot begin the tax sale redemption procedure until March 16th anyway, but kind of trying to get ahead of the...
So what part of town of the big city?
These are on Main Street. This is the old hotel and some lots on either side of it.
On the, what, the north side of
Yeah,
Main Street?
north side of the street.
The biggest hotel in Pioneer.
So what's your plan, just to strip
I
everything
just
down?
kinda like to, if it's possible, save a little bit of history. Or I could lie and say, just make my wife mad.
You don't live by
Or,
the...
like you say, when she finds out I'm here.
You don't live by the theory, happy wife, happy life.
You know?
You turned the switch back on, did you?
Yeah, I kinda do.
Is that old church still there?
No, they moved the church out quite a while ago, and it's over at the League of Prairie.
Oh, yeah, that's right, they moved it over
They got
there.
that restored pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids went to Bible school there when we lived
Yeah.
down in that area.
It's falling apart pretty bad now, and I thought, well, maybe it could be saved yet a little bit for a while.
So we need a motion?
The certificates are a total of $343.20 due, which she agreed to bring that current, and then a $10 assignment fee for each tax sale certificate.
So that's what he's offering?
That's
That's generous. I'll make a motion quick, before he changes his mind.
We have a motion by Harlan to make sign the tax sale certificates.
I'll second it.
Second by Jerry. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right.
Thank you.
You said this was subject to what now, Greg?
Well, there may be a different tack that we can take that may not involve assignment of the certificates, we can still take ownership. The county would still get its money, we'll still get the taxes, but we've got to make some inquiries there.
It's our backup plan.
Right.
Still, he wants to get the taxes current so that nobody else gets in.
That's the first thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything else on the agenda? Peggy, you got anything else for us today? Everybody got everything pretty good? Comments from the public here? Media? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
We saw Mr. Maloney coming at 10.
We do, don't we?
Oh, we can adjourn, we just have to take a recess.
We can take a recess? Yeah, okay.
I forgot we had to come at 10. Take a break till 10 o'clock.
All right.
Good deal. You're welcome.
Call the meeting back to order. The item we have this morning is to talk to Mike and Chip. So we have a couple chairs up here, if you guys like them forward.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you.
We won't make you wait till 10 o'clock.
Thanks. Sorry to start out the wrong foot there. That's right, no way, but this is not New York at all.
Well, Mike Maloney and Chip Schultz from D.A. Davidson. I know we've addressed you folks before, and just following up here as you've been moving through the LEC thought process and construction and planning and all the design pieces. You know, we've kind of touched base about some preliminary thoughts about the financing, and I know things have changed over the last year or so, but thought up, Peggy had contacted us, said, hey, we kind of want to start talking a little more about the financing options and what that might look like. We presented some information. I'm going to review that briefly. I'm going to give you a market update, just where our interest rates are as of right now, and then talk about some potential options for how to finance this and what that might look like. I know you've had discussions with your bond attorney, Mr. Danos. You know, that's someone we obviously work alongside in terms of the whole process, getting the documents in order. Our role in the financing process is really identifying lenders in one of two ways. Either we would underwrite the transaction, which means we'd purchase the debt of the county and then distribute that to investors, or we'd act as placement agent, so you wouldn't have to go out to the municipal market. We'd contact banks directly to place the loan potentially with them. So just, that's kind of the high-level options. I've got 3 pieces of information to hand out with you, and we kind of just pass these around. But this is just a little bit of information on where interest rates are. So when we had spoken with you over time from the last year, you probably would have heard us say, boy, interest rates are doing really, really good. Rates are low on a historic level, and boy, it's a good time to be in the market. Just, I don't know how much better things can get. And we've been like a broken record for about 6 years saying that. So we come back again today, and when we're talking to you, if you look at where they've been quarterly over the last year compared with where they ended Friday, we are at really the lowest rates they've been in the last year on the long term. On the front end of the curve, the early maturities, you're right around the same. You're very similar to really, you know, historic lows in terms of your borrowing. So from a cost to finance standpoint, which is a discussion I know we had a little bit at point last year when we were up here to visit with you, the cost of money is pretty low. So especially if you can pay this off in a quick time frame, it's not too much of a burden from the interest standpoint. But just wanted to kind of give you context for this before we start the discussion. Say, hey, rates are still, if you're going to have to do a project, timing is pretty good. The second piece here that I wanted to share with you, you've probably seen this, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've had similar discussions or reviewed similar information with your bond counsel, Mr. Danos at Dorsey & Whitney. It's really kind of a basic step in terms of county financing. So if you've got the ability to go up for financing, what does that look like? What are your limitations? And what hoops do you need to jump through to be able to go forward with that? And when we talk about financing for cities or counties, we're not talking about utilities, we're talking about, you know, public buildings or streets or roads. Most people typically think about a property tax backing, and that's typically general obligation bonds. That's the lowest cost financing that you can have. That table in the top identifies the limits to which counties can borrow for construction, remodeling, or equipping of county buildings, and it's based on certain dollar limits that you can go out with this authority based on the population of your county. So when we looked at some of the initial discussions with you in terms of the size of the project, we thought this might be an avenue to potentially get there. Depending on what the opinion of the attorneys is in terms of, hey, is this multiple projects, is this just one project, do they all go together? There's certain ways to potentially, you know, kind of massage this and say it's 2 projects, we might be able to get 2 sets of authority under this. So instead of being limited, for example, to $600,000 of borrowing in this mechanism, you might have 2 distinct projects, potentially. And again, we're not the attorneys that would have the opinion on that. So if they said the construction of the building was one piece, and then the update of maybe the communications equipment that's required is a separate piece, that would give you $1.2 million of potential authority that you would be able to execute without having to go to a vote. So that's kind of the key piece between these identifiers. They can be combined, the authority can be combined, you only need to do one financing, regardless of how much authority that you may have, okay? If you can't get through that, we look at some of the other options that you may have to complete the financing, and where would the law enforcement center, which is really a public building construction, fall into place over this overall plan. And it doesn't really fit into any of the other boxes that we typically associate with county financings from a security pledge, which would be your property taxes, potentially TIF, or road use taxes. It just doesn't fit in those boxes. So that means you'd really be kind of up against whatever your attorney's opinion was about separating the projects. And when we look at the law enforcement center, the detailed breakdown of the cost estimates that we reviewed from your engineer, I think our feel is it's pretty unlikely that you're going to have those be separate projects. And we may have had further discussions on that. That's something that we have not been engaged in that discussion. Again, it would not be our opinion on how that would work. Therefore, today we wanted to share with you an alternative financing option that we've been executing more and more for a variety of reasons. I'm going to have this be the follow-up for your information. Sorry. The mechanics of this option are going to be very similar to what we had just looked at. In either case, you're going to have the ability to repay this from property taxes. You can pay this from your debt service levy, just like you would a general obligation tax issue. You could repay this from your general fund, or really any legal source. So it's not changing, what you're pledging to repay the debt. What the big change is you're basically saying, instead of I'm going to pay this every year with property taxes and I'll set the tax rate to do so, you're providing a ground lease on the building. You can't have the building be leased, but a ground lease on the building that a lender would hold, and then you'd have to come back each year and say, yes, we're going to pay for this. Now, the reason that this is accepted by an investor is because you're not going to walk away, in all likelihood, from a law enforcement center. And because of that, the cost difference from an interest standpoint is going to be very, very similar to what your property tax backed issue would be. Additionally, because rates are so very low, that difference between what it would cost to do the property tax pledge and this issue is also very tight. That's why we're seeing more and more of these. The other piece is, rather than the limitation that we looked at on the previous page in terms of, based on your population, you have the authority to do X, it is purely based on what your general fund revenues are from the previous budget year. So right now, we'd be looking at your fiscal 15 budget, which we're in the middle of. Your budget for the year was a total of about $10 million. Your limit is 10% of that, and that's not your borrowing amount, that's your annual repayment amount. So we're talking about almost the whole project size is what you could pay on it each year if you chose to. So you have more than enough capacity to go through this process.
There's no penalty for that.
There's no penalty for that. The other piece of it, the county doesn't have, there's really no debt burden that you currently have. So because of that, we'd say, well, how does this affect our debt capacity? Your county, the size of your county, the size of the project we're talking about, it's really a very small portion of your debt capacity. So this doesn't have a ton of benefit. But another reason we see some cities doing this right now is because only that annual payment that you approve would count against your capacity limit. So again, not a big issue for you folks, but in general, there's a benefit there. The last piece of this, in terms of restrictions, are you can't have your financing be any longer than the economic life of what you're going to finance. That's not a problem in this case. In all likelihood, you're going to pay this off pretty quickly, and this project is for a building that's going to last for a significant amount of time, hopefully. So those are some of the pieces to it, and why is this a good option? Why do we think this is a potential good option for you? One, it allows you to do the whole financing for the full project if you'd like to. You're not limited by those population principal amounts. And the second piece is, there's no additional hoops to jump through. Again, this is not subject to a vote, it would be subject to reverse referendum only. So it would take public petition for there to actually be a vote. So the mechanics for you aren't any different. So you get the benefit of being able to do all the things you may want to do, and the only additional burden here is you may pay a slightly higher interest rate, but at this time, you get a lot of benefit because of where rates currently are. So want to lay that out for you. I know you've probably had a lot more discussion with this. You've got other professionals that you've been working on. We want to present some of the options, and then hopefully have some feedback from you today or some questions from you concerning the financing elements, and we'd be happy to answer those questions, and then either follow up today or however you may like us to in the future here.
So when it says subject to reverse referendum, explain that again. please.
Sure. So, right now, when you look at that other sheet with the table by population and the
Yep.
limits, you can execute those financings for public buildings without going to a vote.
Correct.
You just have that authority at all times as a county. What you would have for some of these other projects, you'd have to go to a vote in all likelihood to be able to execute either the size of the project or for those specific purposes.
Okay.
In this case, you have the ability to go out for any legal purpose that's covered by this, but you would only need to have a public vote if there is a petition from the public to do so. So you go through your normal public hearing process, and that would have to be voiced during your public hearing process.
Okay,
And you only get, the petition's only meaningful if it exceeds 10% of the voters in the last countywide
So
election.
if we stay under the 10%, then
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
it's just subject to that if you were
Absolutely.
above that. Now I
Only in that
understand.
circumstance, right.
Thank you.
Yep.
That makes sense. Well, and then, so, say you wanted to go this route and utilize close to the maximum, and we got some grant money and stuff, can that be applied to this at any time, or you can
Yeah.
pay off early, or you can...
Yeah, the benefit, if you do the lease purchase obligation as a bank financing, that gives you a whole lot more flexibility to pay the debt off at any
That's what I wondered,
time.
'cause like,
If it's a bond market
It's
transaction as a lease, then you have less
limited
ability to call
pay
the
you
debt
pay a
off.
certain amount every year on the bond side.
It's usually, the debt will be callable about halfway through if you do a 10-year structure,
Okay.
callable in the 5th or 6th year.
Okay.
But if you have a lot more flexibility
Sure.
in terms of
Right.
bank financing. So the bank's glad to get their money back at any time and re-lend it from there, so.
Looks to me like this would be the best option, even if we was twice our size.
Yeah.
Even if we could have more authority, this gives you so many more...
That's right. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good route. I think a lot more counties are looking at this kind of mechanism for financings as they look at
So
projects.
is this a separate line item on the budget then, Peggy? The payment of this?
Lease purchase contract, I don't know if it would go under the debt service
You could,
category,
it's a general fund pledge,
okay?
but you can pay it from any legal source.
Oh, okay.
So you could have the mechanics be just like your general obligation bond, and you can use your debt service levy to pay for it. So when we talked about the type of impacts previously that we presented to you,
Mhm.
it would be the same mechanics from a budget standpoint and payment standpoint.
Okay.
Yep.
So in other words, we could take repayment out of our, if we got grants, we could take it out of our general fund, we could take it out of our, loss fund.
Right.
Yep.
There's a lot of, I mean, it gives us a little more flexibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like
We got
that.
that.
Or you could levy for it separately.
Or you could levy for it separate.
That's what I was
Right,
getting
right.
at.
Yeah, you
have
can do
a
all of
separate
those.
levies.
Or split it somehow, levy for half of it, or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the flexibility is coming in.
Absolutely.
You change that levy each year to, you wanted to...
Yep.
Neat.
We got a
Good, you bet.
$300,000 one for interest-free for how many years is that one?
You mean from the REC?
Yeah.
That's interest-free for how many years?
10 years, I think.
10 years.
Like one of the red leg loans, is that what
I
it
think
is?
that's what they called them.
So how much would we actually need to be borrowing?
Well, we probably, what are we talking, $1 million, a little over $1 million?
Yeah, it's like 1.1 with some of the estimates I saw, and there's upside with your grants.
So if you can get that, 500,000, is that what it was, or 300? I think it was a little less, 360, so if you can knock that off at 0%.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You'd still be looking at about 700,000 plus probably.
Yep.
Plus,
But if you can do that as a separate levy, you could drop your payment back,
That's right.
to 10 years or
Instead of
something,
20.
and, what do you save, about, about 0.5%?
Yeah, and I think...
You charge today?
Yeah, and I think the other piece of that is just, if you're gonna have the situation where you do go through the bank financing and you can call it any time, you can get your financing locked in. You don't need to borrow, and you don't need to draw on any of it.
but lock it in at that rate.
Lock it in, you draw it as you need it. Even if your construction timeline's not that long, yeah, it might not be a ton of benefit, but what if your grants all come in during that period? You never execute the loan at the full amount, so you really get a lot of flexibility there.
It just opens up your line of credit.
Yeah, and you don't have, these bank financings, I think historically have been done for, really small projects or something that's complicated from a tax standpoint. they're really being more prevalent right now. One, it's just a unique time in the market, and the demand's really good for them. The other piece is, the county hasn't had a significant amount of debt historically, but recently the amount of additional focus on disclosure for issues that go out to the traditional municipal bond market is really intense. And because of that, it's starting to be, well, we can jump through these hoops and get this rate, or we can get a rate that we may have to go through these many hoops, we're going to have to pay this many people, and we can execute it on our terms. So, I think we'd work to try to go to your local folks or stay in the county as much as we can, but we'll leverage all the other people we're talking to that are buying these all the time. So you're going to get the best deal, and we'll work. It's important to get that local, interest in it. You're going to have interest in it, just it's got to be at the right rate for your taxpayers too. So
Okay, say if we go with this lease deal for, say, $700,000, so what does this cost us up front? The guy last week said there's like $6,000 up front charge and all of this stuff.
Sure.
So what are we talking?
Sure. I think it's pretty fair to kind of put, when you talk about fees on something like this, you probably around at least 2% is kind of a general thought for that. That's a minimum, and then the smaller the issue, you have more fixed costs related to that. So I think overall, we can do a side-by-side that I'll follow up with you on a bond market versus the bank placement. But if you were to go through the bond market, in all likelihood, you'd probably try to pursue a rating of some kind. It's going to be in the $9,000 to $10,000 range for a rating fee, which you'd only do if it makes sense to pay that money to get a lower interest rate. If you get a rating on your bond market issue, you're likely going to get a better interest rate because you'll be considered a higher credit quality. That's part of the cost. We always do a cost benefit if that's worth it, but that's a cost. Your bond counsel is going to have a fee. I imagine that's what you were discussing in terms of what that's going to cost to do the due diligence and what have you that they're working for. So that's another piece of it. Sure. Our fee would be in the kind of 1 to 1.5% range, depending on the size of the issue and the complexity of it. I think that's a pretty fair target for where we'd be. And we do it not to exceed, so depending on what avenue we go to, bank placement versus the market, it's going to change. Bank placement, we typically work for less. There's less risk for us.
Right.
There's less need for compensation on that angle. Then the other piece for a bond market transaction is going to be just your general administrative costs. So you're going to have, printing, your filing, your bank processing, maybe that's $3,000 up front, maybe $500 or so a year. Sure.
You talk about bank placement. What has been your experience like? We got several banks in town here. Do they compete at all?
Yeah, they're going to be really aggressive with your debt. They're going to eat it up. And I think where we bring benefit to you just going down the street is we'll talk to them. We're going to get them in the loop first thing so they have everything they need. They probably don't see a lot of municipalities' debt. They see a lot of commercial loans. They see a lot of ag loans. They understand that credit. They understand what they're looking at. What we try to do is really explain things in terms, we'll have a whole credit package that we go out to them with. Here's all the information they need to know. They know who you are, but they need to be able to do their own write-ups and due diligence on it. And then what we really try to do, and the benefit that we bring is, we're going to try to guide them. Hey, we're going to talk to our other lenders that we work with around the state, around the Midwest, around the country, and say, here's really where the rate should be on this transaction. And we're open with our lender. We say, hey, the best rate's going to probably win this thing, but we're going to bring it back to the locals. And we'll tell the locals, hey, this is probably where you got to be competitive with this. Where are you at? And most of the time, at least 2 or 3 of the banks will say, yeah, we want to get there, where can we go? And we work with them to get the lowest rate possible. It's really just kind of a back and forth process, but a lot of our job is just education to kind of drive and say, this is what the benefit of this credit is. That's really our challenge from that standpoint.
I think a lot of it so much is walking through, here's where we've seen banks get to at on a rate, walk through the credit spread analysis they go through, and then walk through the tax exemption, because you get so much benefit from being a tax exempt entity, and that therefore obviously reduces your rate. So walking them through that process is really, that's our job. Our job ultimately is to try to drive.
Get this process going, is there fees up front when you turn it loose?
No, we're there throughout the whole, right.
Yep. And we're contingent. I mean, we don't get paid until it closes. And no, I don't think really, I mean, you might have something worked out differently with other third parties, but this, nothing gets paid until the deal's done, period. So, You know, I think that's the other key here, is if we don't get a good enough job done for you, or you don't feel the rate's competitive enough based on what we bring back to you, you're not out anything for our work to keep that done.
It seemed like a fairly significant cost in order to receive our bond rating, like you said,
Yes.
$10,000.
Sure.
I mean, that seems like an extremely high amount up
I would
front in order
agree.
to receive that. I mean, how crucial is that in order to determine our interest
No.
rate on that? I mean, because that's the,
Yeah, right.
you know,
When you're looking at the likely financing structure you're looking at, it doesn't go out that long. So it's hard to, if you did a 20-year deal, then there's more benefit from getting the rating stamped on
and the
your...
length and the dollar amount.
Yeah,
makes it-
right.
I mean, the cost.
$5
per
million's much more.
Borrowing's a lot higher than it would be if it's a $10 million or $100 million project.
You bet, you bet.
That's, you know, you can spread that cost up, then that 10,000 doesn't look so good.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
And we would run it both ways to make sure it makes sense from a cost standpoint. And, you know, sometimes it's so obvious that we just say, yeah, we rate it, it's not even, you know, and if it's close...
You can run that on your own without going in.
Yeah, and if it's close, we'd let you know and say, hey, what do you wanna do? For some people, it's a sense of pride, hey, we really wanna get a rating, this is important to us, we wanna know where we stand. Other folks are like, I don't wanna go through a rating process, there's not enough benefit here for me to do it. So, and this is only in the market scenario, when we're kinda suggesting here, talking about a bank placement, you wouldn't have a rating process.
Yeah.
So the due diligence is solely done by the banks, so you don't have a cost for that work, which is nice, yeah.
Makes sense.
I think the part I like about this type of option is, you know, trying to split that out, just borrow $600,000 for the building, not knowing where the gray area is between the building, what wiring goes in for the equipment, and, you know, there's gonna be a lot of in-between expenses that aren't related to technology, and
Right.
aren't just necessary to the building. And then the flexibility of the payback is a big thing to me, anytime you have that flexibility where you can change things, or if the market changes, and, you know, if we have a good year, a bad year, I mean, there's a lot of variability where
Like
it
you
can
might
change.
get or might not get, or
Yeah.
you're not getting technology, not flexibility.
And the point of guaranteeing the amount we need to do the project, you can't really begin the project without knowing you've got the full amount to make the project work.
That's right.
And we're gonna get behind the curve here pretty quick, get started
Yep,
until we get the financing part of it laid out.
exactly.
And we don't wanna keep delaying bids, you know, the estimates we're getting now will only go higher if construction starts picking up again.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the key is, hey, you can still take advantage of all your grants. It's really, really challenging for any community to try to time up everything with their project, the construction, the potential grants, other types of sources. You know, we see some projects with donations. Well, it's great, you might get a pledge, that doesn't really do you a whole lot until the project's done. So however we can make that work easily, I think that's where the benefit starts to add up. There's a few extra pieces, and that's why I want to show it to you. Just the last thing, hey, why have you not heard about this if you haven't, or why are people doing it more now versus previously? I think the rate differential is strong right now. I think the other piece is, if you look at some of these dollar limits for doing these projects, they haven't been changed by the state for years and years and years. So counties and cities have been able to get away with these dollar amounts because they don't have expenses for these projects. But as the infrastructure ages and costs go up, suddenly these limits don't get you real far on a project. So people are looking for other avenues, and that's kind of where we end up.
So what is the difference, you know, like on your chart here, 10% or 10-year loan based on your orange line there, is about 2%. So typically you say there's a very little difference between the bank and the bond market then? What is that difference? Is it
Sure.
0.2, 0.1?
It depends on each time. I would say there's two factors. One, the banks are probably gonna give you a single interest rate. So you'll pay it back each year at some level, but you'll probably get one rate on the loan. And if on a 10-year financing, you're probably not gonna get a 10-year rate, you're gonna probably be at 7, because they look at the average amount of time that's outstanding, right? In the bond market, you're gonna have gradual interest rates for each year. So your 1 year would have a rate all the way blended up. So on average, it kinda gets around that same maybe 6-7 year average at that point. The benefit you have is you absolutely have the capacity to go into the bond market if you wanted to. And because of that, we've got a pretty good idea where you'd price. So when we talk with banks and potential lenders about what interest rate we need, we can back it up by what we've seen, but we also say, hey, if you can't get here, the county's just gonna go to the market. So that really gives us a lot of ammunition to say, here's where we need to be on interest rate. So in terms of being competitive, we should be right on what you'd be able to get from the market. It's gotta be able to break even, because that's the story we have hey, if it doesn't make sense from a dollars and cents standpoint, we'll just shift gears. And you can do things concurrently, so you're not gonna be, oh, we gotta go one route and then change it up. It's not that way at all, so.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, we might get a local bank interested just for that
Well,
reason.
I was hoping we could. I would-
Yeah,
You know, the nice thing about it for a local bank is, it's a blend of borrowing, you know, they've got maybe agriculture, commercial, residential, this gives
Sure.
them another blend, and it probably helps their portfolio in some degree, I'm not sure, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it wouldn't hurt it any.
Absolutely.
This should be as sound as a payment plan as anything, or, you know.
As good as they see from a credit standpoint.
I think that's probably why they get interested, and it gives them a good image in the community. It's
great. That's right.
That's
It's a great
story. Worth for them.
Well, sure, Carl plays golf with the bank president down here, so I mean, we'll get a real good...
Oh, you give him a stroke.
At least.
On your shoulders, Carl.
Will they go that far out
We
and
can't
give
get
her
our-
that rate without, 'cause they don't know down the road if interest rates are gonna go way up. Are they gonna be able to guarantee that?
Well, I think because this is a shorter, I think this will end up being...
That's what he's saying, if you go like 7 years as opposed to 10, you can probably get a better rate, is that what you're
Sure,
saying?
I think we work on it. I mean, I think that's the key. It just depends on what's gonna fit for you as well. You know, we've shared with you previously kind of the impact to your overall levy rate to pay for the project, and we've always done that assuming you pay fully from that. You've got other sources, so as we go through the process, we can bring that back and visit with Peggy about, hey, here's what this would cost, here's what your impact would be, and we can kind of come up with, here's really what the board would prefer to do. We want to be in this range, and that's going to drive how long the term is, because we want to know what the impact's going to be each year. So, really, that's on us. I mean, we'll prepare whatever scenarios you want to see, and you get some decision points in there that can really be discussed during the process. I mean, if you have parameters, we can really work through Peggy in terms of, hey, here's where we want to be, this looks good, that's where we want to go.
So for us in our own minds, and if we kind of use like a 2% thinking, is that out of line at all?
That should be right in that range, I think,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So, maybe a touch more, 2.25, but, we'll have to see, you know, what market
But that
conditions
isn't
are.
an unusual thing for us to kind of use as a base point then?
No, you probably want to use a little higher to be conservative at this point, so maybe 2.25 to 2.5 is probably a better, just to, you know, to get
We gotta
some
make some
fluctuations.
commitments here, someday, our architect just kind of sitting in limbo, waiting to see whether you have the money or not.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
Probably a good step to get going, sooner than later, if you're comfortable, whenever you get to a point where you're comfortable with this, is to get the public hearing out of the way, so that you know you have authority to
We
move
did,
ahead.
what was the public hearing we had, was it last week?
Just,
Well, does that suffice?
I don't know.
Was that on the project itself or on the financing? Do you?
No, just a public hearing to let people know that we're wanting to go forward with this.
Okay, on the plans and specs more so, as opposed to the financing itself?
right.
Well,
We went over the plans and you know, the design that the architect drew.
Okay.
And asked for...
We have to have it agendized specifically for the financing?
You do.
To meet that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and publish a notice in the paper, giving notice that there's gonna be a public hearing on the financing.
Okay.
And the folks at Dorsey will provide you all those notices and proceedings and everything, so.
So we want to move forward on that, we need to get that out of the way then.
Yeah.
And I think the key piece from the number standpoint, everything else is procedural from the documents, is a not-to-exceed amount. That's the only thing that you need to have. So what we typically do is take the highest version of your estimate, assuming you don't get any, you know, grant money or other sources and what have you. We add a little cushion on that just in case, and then that's the number that's not to exceed. That doesn't commit you to borrowing that amount, that just is, we're pretty confident we won't go over that for a borrowing standpoint.
Right.
And when you do that, it makes sure you don't have to go back and redo that process again. It's really only a couple meetings you need to get through, but Peggy's gotta put something in the paper, and you gotta start the whole train down the tracks once again. So we like to use a bigger number to start with, and knowing that that's not what we're gonna be less than that.
Yeah.
So what we need to do today is really nothing till we get that documentation back
That's right.
and have it agendized in future meetings.
That's right. If this is what you wanna pursue, I think what you're gonna see next from steps is we'll coordinate with Dorsey and let them know, here's where we wanna go. I'll follow up with ISG and Peggy to get, hey, here's where we think we are on the project numbers. I wanna make sure we've got the latest and greatest. Go through that so everybody's comfortable on the number and we get that view. And then either your next meeting or whatever meeting is gonna be workable to set that public hearing, you'll get proceedings for that. You'll get probably an engagement agreement if you haven't already from Mr. Danos at Dorsey, and an engagement agreement for us specifically to these transactions, and we kind of go from there. But I think the key is just from a time frame standpoint, what you want to do. If we put a timeline together for you, you'd probably just have the public hearing steps for now, and then once you get everything comfortable on the construction side, at that point, we come back and get the financing kind of put in place. And really, 2 meetings, I think, is what you should think about for the public hearing process, and 2 meetings for the actual financing process for you folks. And then you can close the loan, it doesn't have to be on a meeting date. Okay.
Can you provide Peggy with a schedule of when we should agendize that?
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is do you want to get going as soon as your next board meeting, or do you want to come back at the beginning of March? I mean, it's really up to you in terms of how quickly you want to go through it.
Next meeting, so,
We're off on President's Day, the 16th, so.
it'll be the 23rd, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think your attorneys would appreciate the extra week, so that would be good.
Well, two of you will be gone on the 23rd, have a full board till March. Yeah, we could do it that first week in...
First week in March.
Yeah, let's maybe do
That'd be the
that.
second.
That'd probably be the best for everybody.
So I'll build the timeline from there, and what we'll do is, as of right now, we'll have the public hearing. Those will be good dates that you'll actually execute on. We'll have the remaining steps in there. I'll put them in red or shade them so you know, this is tentative, these are just the procedures you need to go through in terms of the timing, and we can move those as we need. You know, you got bids coming in, you're gonna probably review some more specs, I would imagine, in March. Once you have that all set up, you know, we'll in the meantime, kind of be working on behind the scenes so it can go very smoothly when we get to that process.
What days of the week does your paper publish on?
Thursday. Yep.
Okay, all right, we'll get that planned out, all right, okay. Just give that.
Okay.
So we just have a gentleman's agreement today that you're gonna come back with us something from March.
Yes, yep,
And I have to
absolutely.
have the notice to them by Monday to go on Thursday.
There you go.
Okay.
Monday at
Noon.
Okay.
There's your...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sometimes 10 o'clock, yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, what day and month is that?
We're talking
Second.
about March 2nd.
Yeah.
So, I think that'd be best. You guys will all be back, everybody will be back. Yep. Okay.
And then you'll just get to him if that Thursday is enough notice for following Monday.
Sure.
We'll work with Mr. Danos and get that all cleared up.
Thanks.
You bet.
Good.
All right. Thank you.
Great,
very much.
right, thank you.
Take care.
Information, and we'll be looking forward to working with you.
Excellent, I'll be right too. Thank you, folks.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it's the best option.
Yeah,
now.
there's all kinds of flexibility, you get grants from the...
Linda.
Well, I was just kind of
Knowing where we're at, Linda needs to do some of this, that she's having a hard time moving forward.
2014.
Yeah, but I think for the most part, things...
Anything else for the new Peggy, or any board member have anything? Good, you're...
So moved. Second.
Arlen, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Vote nay. Motion is passed, meeting is adjourned.
Adjourned at 10.